If you really want to go way back, I met him in March of 1948 in a little grocery store on Franklin Avenue where his father had a bakery. And we had just rented the apartment above the bakery. And I met him the first day that we moved in, and I couldn't get rid of him. Stayed and even carried my groceries up for me, and that was the start of our relationship. We had a bakery in the Bronx, New York, because I think you mentioned that, and it was called Snowflake Bakery. But we bought that out, we sold that out because my father-in-law didn't want to deal with the unions in New York. And we found the bakery in Rochester, New York. It was the New York Bakery. We were there for a couple of years, and we had such a successful time there, we just couldn't keep up with the requests. And a family, 2 brothers and 5 sons, came to ask us if we would be willing to sell. My father-in-law said yes. And we were out of Rochester pretty soon after that, and looked around. My father-in-law checked around, even in California, and found that Syracuse, New York, had this bakery. He bought the bakery from Carl Waltog and changed the name to Snowflake. And I believe he franchised it. This one wasn't, the other one was not. And Carl was saying, "Oh, you're changing the name. Nobody will come. You're going to lose a lot of business." And he just, my father-in-law just said, we'll make it, and we sure did. We just kept going, and the bakery was just filled with people all the time. 1954, we came to Syracuse, and kept going from there.
How difficult was it? Was it very difficult at first, getting a clientele coming in there?
No, not at all. We put an ad in the paper, and it just boomeranged. It boomeranged, and it was just a fantastic time. I mean, we were just amazed at the amount of people that came flocking to the store. Of course, there was also a supermarket a half a block up called Govenda's, and because they had tremendous trade, and people would come over just at the beginning to see what we had to offer. Well, that's all they had to do was come in one time, and they just kept coming and coming and coming. I mean, Sundays you couldn't even get in the door. You took a number and went outside and chatted with friends. And election time, we had all the fellas up for election coming and talking to everybody outside. We even made a cake for Lee Alexander, congratulating him on his win as mayor. And the election wasn't even over. And we congratulated him, and somebody said, "Well, how could you do that?" We said, "Well, we didn't order it. They did. Because we had to save our ass." Excuse me.
I won't use that. How did Milt know how to make all these? He came up with a lot of these recipes.
Well, my father-in-law had the recipes.
Ah, I see.
And when we were living in New York, he was trying to make a decision as to what career after high school to go into. He was going to go to college, and he wanted to go in for journalism because he was editor of the school paper in the high school that he was in. And then, of course, we were trying to decide, should we get married, should we not get married? And when my father-in-law sold the Snowflake in the Bronx, and we were looking to move out of town, we said, Milt and I said, let's get married wherever we go. I'm not going to stay in New York. And so we got married and just went to Rochester and so on.
And Milt was very, he made a lot of friends in the community.
Oh yes, we had a lot of, we did. We had a lot of friends. And I mean, business associates and socially, we were busy all the time.
And Shirlee Cooper told me an interesting story when her husband was ill and in the hospital. Do you know this story, how Milt made some special half moons?
Beverly
Cooper, yeah, because I said to myself, that wasn't sure. Well, yeah, no, it was Beverly Cooper. Her husband was Marshall Cooper, and she wanted, I forget what she wanted, chocolate?
All white.
All white? All white, okay. Because there was a customer that we had that wanted chocolate cake and all chocolate. And he wanted all white cake and white icing.
And what does it mean to you now when you see how deeply embedded in the consciousness of people's memory?
I'm absolutely amazed. When I read the Snowflake Memories, I go to it very often, and when I find the young people finding each other after so many years, and then talking about their experiences, either with or without the bakery mentioned, it makes me feel good, because just going on to Snowflake Memories is good for me. It makes me feel good. I mean, he was just so elated when he was able to do that. And he would read that, all the little things, and he'd call me in and he'd say, look, you remember this person, remember that person, and look at that, they found one another, and isn't that nice? And I'd say, wonderful. And of course my hands were dripping wet with something that I was preparing, but I always came in to see what he wanted. And yeah, it's mind-boggling to me that a little store like Snowflake could have such a following, if that's what you want to call it, and Milt was such a personality in himself, because he was always joking, he was always cheerful, and he always had a smile on his face. I mean, once in a while not, but I would say 99% of the time, because he was just very, very good-natured. There are so many stories that can be told about what happened in that bakery. You know, the funny parts and the sad parts, and everything.
And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about some of the people who worked there. For instance, those two ladies whose photographs you have in here.
Oh, Claire Petrie. Yeah, she was working for us for a very long time, and she had her sisters and her daughters working for us. Kathy, I don't remember Kathy's last name, but her daughter Marcia and Lynn Petrie were working for us. And Helen Leverton, who was a Syracusan, Rita Davis, I think we found her there. But Irene Welch was really the mainstay there. We did find her there too. She was working for Carl Waltog when we bought the bakery, and she stayed on. And then there were just girls that kept, you know, they came in, they came out, they came back, they had a baby, they came back, you know, that whole thing. But yeah, and they were faithful. I mean, when Milt left the bakery, they were clapping their hands. Oh, good, great, you know, we don't have you on our backs. They called him 2 weeks later, when are you coming back to the store?
And when did he sell the bakery?
September of 1984. He went out on complete disability because his back was so very bad, and he couldn't stand up for too long at a time. So the doctor said, you know, find yourself another doctor, because I won't take care of you in that condition. You have to take care of yourself now.
And what was Stan Glotzer's role in
Stan just took care of the girls in the front, and he wasn't a baker, and he had no desire to be one. So, and besides being Lorraine Ziegler's husband, you know, it worked that way. It worked out fine. He decided to leave, I forget what year. Milt left in '84. He may have left in 78 or 79. You know, and he went into real estate there.
I wonder if you could describe to me what Fayette Street was like back in that day.
It was amazing. I mean, you did have the housing project across the street, and every once in a while you would have a problem with the kids. But you had the merchants there. I mean, they kept the street relatively clean. You had customers that would go from one to another. You had Martin's Meat Market in the middle of that street, 2 doors down from the bakery entrance. You had the what we called little Govendas, right next between the bakery and the meat market. The cleaner, Carlton's Cleaner, was on the corner. And then on the next on the corner on the other side of us was Skornick's gas station, and across the street from that was Govenda's, the big supermarket. And you had customers going from one store to another for whatever it was that they needed, from the cleaning to the meat market to the to the grocery store, to the bakery. And it was just amazing. You'd see people saying, "Oh, well, you know, I haven't seen you in so long. Where you've been keeping?" And it was just a friendly place to be. Excuse me.
Is anything lost at all by not having such a community around like that anymore?
It is, because I think that the younger generation are missing out on having the closeness to each other in the neighborhood. You know, they don't have that to remember for themselves. They remember it when they were kids, when their parents or grandparents would bring them to the neighborhood, but they don't have it for themselves. It isn't a memory of theirs, really.
And what happened to the neighborhood itself when you were down there? Did it change at all?
Yeah, it has changed. I mean, it's getting very bad down there. People don't go out. I mean, we'd be open till sometimes, even though we tried to close at 6 or 6:30, we'd be open sometimes till 7 o'clock, because people would be still in the store. You just don't close the door and shoo them out. So they would be there, and they would be. It would be pitch black out, and yet they could be out on the street. You can't do that now. It's a tough neighborhood. Right now, it's tough.
And how would you like people in Syracuse to remember Milt?
Well, I think that they always remember Milt as being a very jovial, very happy fellow, and willing to give you the shirt off his back, which he did. I have to tell you, even the shoes off his feet. And that brings back a memory, too. But there was a fellow that came in homeless and very poorly dressed, and he asked Milt if he could have something to eat. And Milt said, sure. He took him in the back, gave him some coffee, and gave him some rolls, you know, with butter or just plain piece of cake, whatever it was. He looked down and he saw his shoes. There were holes in the bottom of the shoes with cardboard sticking out of it. And Milt says to him, what size shoes do you wear? And it just so happens to be the same size that Milt wore. And he had an extra pair of shoes in the office. He gave him the shoes. The guy didn't know what to do. He was actually in tears. And Milt packed up some stuff for him to take with him. These are the things that people, and I've told this story a few times, but these are the things that people will remember about Milt, because he was really very, very good-hearted. He was a Mason and a Shriner, and every year we helped give, and I think it may have been Percy's school, that we would give a Thanksgiving lunch to the kids. And everything, the breads and the cakes and the cookies and everything, Milt donated. And he was an easy touch when it came to kids especially. And people remember this, and I see this in the memories of snowflake memories. And every once in a while somebody says, you know, I remember this. And it is so true that these things have actually happened. I mean, they have good memories of Milt being generous and kind and a funny man. He was a funny man.
Okay, very good. Anything else you want to tell me that you think is important that we've missed?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many stories I could tell you. I'm trying to think of where I even should start. You know, like one of the funny stories. This guy comes in and he had just bought this cake. And we said to him, put it on the floor of the car or in the trunk. Comes back in about 15 minutes later and he says, you know, my window was open and this kid came along with a baseball bat, reached in and bashed the box. Well, we opened up the box and the cake was like, Milt said to him, it wasn't on the seat of your car and you stopped short for the red light or something? Oh, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So he waited. Milt gave him another cake, no charge. And we had so many of those little incidents that have happened that, I'm surprised we even stayed in business. We gave away so much because people were just, they don't listen. They were good customers. We had marvelous customers, I have to tell you. And I had a glass over my desk that looked into the bakery so I could, one way so I could look out and they couldn't see in. And they would just slam that glass over and stick their heads in the window over my desk. And so what's doing? But it was a good time. Things were easier. You didn't have the pressures today then as you did to do today, business or socially or customer wise. Our customers were great. There were so many things I could say, but I can't off the top of my head think of everything right now.